Hi folks, welcome back to the GM's Alcove, my battle vlog update. This is episode 5. Showing you what I've been doing with my gaming. And if you remember from my last episode, I was just getting into lock and load Heroes of the Motherland for the very first time. Starting off with the Rattenkrieg scenario, which is the suggested learning scenario. So far, I am indeed loving it. And right now I'm at the halfway mark of the battle. It's a 6-turn game, 6-turn battle, and I'm at the top of turn 4. So I thought I'd document this and let you guys know what I think so far and how the battle's progressing. You can kind of see what's going on at the moment. Not much has changed regarding the deployments here. Remember, this hex and this hex were both on fire, and they just went out. So that's good news for the Russians. It means they could finally start advancing across the street here. The Germans don't have many beads on them. As they do so, they'll occupy that building, perhaps. We'll see. So they can finally make a move here. Right at the moment, they're kind of spreading out in both directions. They did manage to get across the street here. One thing that was dramatic that happened here, German MG42 down here, put down some heavy fire, which he probably shouldn't have, and I'll get to that in a minute. But he put down some heavy fire on this hex, this building area, which had a couple squads in it, and one of the squads spawned a hero, which is another feature of these rules. Not only can you start a battle with a hero, but they can be spawned as a result of a damage check in their favor. I think it was if you roll a 1, you roll again. And if it's evens, that unit, that squad, will produce a hero. And this is what we got. Randomly pulled from the stockpile. Come up with this guy right here. And you also randomly give him a skill. Well, a randomly chosen skill. And he got Leader Hero, which basically makes him a leader, which is very appropriate in this situation. With a leadership modifier of 1, and he can do all the things that a leader can do. Normally, heroes don't have that ability, although units stacked with heroes can attempt to rally, which is something usually reserved to leaders and heroes. So, yeah, hero has that anyway. But, yeah, we'll see how this pulls off. He crossed the street down here with those very same 2 squads. This building was then occupied by the squad that was up here, and the other squad went up to this direction. And again, there's a machine gun placed up here, 12.7 millimeter. Not very effective fire coming from these guys as a whole. Haven't been able to do much up here, but the only target is this hex and this MG42 were the only eligible targets. I will say one thing. I do appreciate ASL's rule regarding residual firepower. Basically, when you commit to firing on a hex, it doesn't mean you can't fire anywhere else. You can still hit targets that move through the hex, or you can switch targets and catch units moving out of the original target hex or moving into it. And it's a good rule. I like that. It's a complex rule for ASL, to be expected. But I do appreciate that. And this game doesn't really have that. Nothing like residual firepower. And one of the things that happened here... Okay, in fact, let's zoom in a little bit, so you guys can get an idea what I'm talking about. But one of the things that happened here, because there is no residual firepower rules in this, or switching targets after originally targeting another hex with defensive fire... What happened here is this. I made a mistake. This MG42 position fired. It probably shouldn't have, and I'll explain that in a second, but it fired during the German initiative on this hex. By doing so, it was marked as fired and basically can't fire anymore. After it did that, the units that were in here were able to freely move without being shot at into this position, not even by this MG42. And at least in game terms, it was not able to actually fire here. So they did make their way to this building unhindered. Now, there was an MG42 up here that was probably able to hit this, but I didn't fire there. I'm too concerned about the guards facing me across the street here, so they didn't fire. But one of the things I probably should not have done was fire with this unit. Because I think, and I'm noticing, that in this scenario, it's probably best for the Germans to kind of lay back and pass and maybe shift forces here and there as needed and let the Russians come to them. I mean, the Germans are the defenders. Catch the Russians with opportunity fire, which is kind of like defensive fire in ASL, shooting during the opponent's movement. And because I didn't do that here, I fired during a German initiative, he had no chance to fire at a target moving in the open, which was these guys moving here. I was already firing here. So that was a mistake I made with the Germans, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. The itchy fingers down here. So we'll see what comes from this situation here. I have a feeling the Russians are going to be pressuring these weak German flanks. Let me zoom out a little. So I was saying these weak German flanks over here as well as here to get to this building. So I could see that happening. And as it stands now, the Germans are so occupied and fearful, really, of the Russian guards coming across the street and attacking here. I think I'm overreacting with them, but that's okay. The Russians did actually put smoke in this hex, which was pretty much a waste of time, I think, late in the last turn. But yeah, there is smoke there laid by the Russians. And the Russians did actually get across the open ground originally to this position. They now occupy the building. They got some close range fire on the unit that was here. Shook him, and he eventually withdrew to this position here and was subsequently rallied by this German hero. The hero allowed him to do that. And so he's rallied and currently sitting with the hero inside some trenches. Pretty cool. And anticipate the Russians moving forward into this rubble next. And I imagine there'll be some close assaults coming up pretty soon. So as you can see, my preoccupation with defending this area here is kind of putting my flanks at risk. And I think the Russians, although they haven't built up any strong forces on my flanks, the German flanks, they are threatening these flanks. And that could tell the tale at the end of the battle if one of these flanks comes in and grabs the objective. There's nothing in here. My reserve is committed already. I got my decisive lieutenant back here, a leader, the sole occupant of the building. I funneled his troops up to one of these positions. I think it's here. I don't know why I did that. He was sitting in some rubble, and I moved him forward in anticipation for some point-blank fire the next turn. We'll see. Well, regardless, he's in trenches. And this German officer moved from this position to here. He's a 716, so he's got a +1 to any units he's stacked with when they shoot. And that happens to be this MG42 tripod-mounted. So basically, the MG can't move, but it's going to have a +1 when it fires. Very powerful, these MGs, as to be expected. So I want to take advantage of that. And yeah, so far that's the situation. Basically 3 turns of the Russians being patient and cautious, waiting for the fires to die down before they're making a move here. Slowly creeping up on both flanks of the Germans. The Germans have done nothing to reinforce those positions, and in fact have withdrawn, at least on the right flank for the Germans. Don't know what's going to happen here. They're in desperate need of some support, but we'll see. An MG42 is pretty potent. Russians do clamber in through the windows of this building or get behind these walls. They're going to have to deal with this MG as well, but we'll see. Opportunity fire, I think, is important for the Germans, and I got to pay attention to that if they're going to defend these positions with such small numbers in the coming 3 turns. So, yeah, that's a look at the game so far. I'm still learning, but I'm having a great time learning this system. There's a lot of counters. I do notice that. A lot more than I'm used to with, say, ASL. But most of these counters you don't need to put down, even if they're suggested, because you know what's going on. But still, it doesn't detract from the game, really. And one of the reasons for that is the counters are kind of big, as you can see. So it's not as bad. But so far, I am liking this game. And perfect for a casual game. I've had some people ask me or state that they're looking for a game that's a little easier on the brain cells when it comes to gameplay compared to ASL. And I always recommend people look to the starter kits for ASL because, man, ASL is just, that detail is so awesome in your games. And it's a fun system to play, especially if you're using the starter kits like I've been using. But that said, I also got to say that this game is a real joy to play, and I think it's right up your alley. It's kind of like ASL Lite, in a way, kind of like the starter kits. But this has a slightly different take on game mechanics and the use of things like skills for your heroes and leaders. It's fun, so I recommend this as well so far. Yeah, so far I'm liking it. What else? I don't know. It's an interesting scenario. I know ASL has a scenario called War of the Rats, which is Rattenkrieg. I thought it would be similar to this, but don't think it is. No, it's definitely not. Totally different scenario. In fact, I made a video on that scenario for ASL. You can check that out. Look at my ASL playlist or my World War II Madness vlog, which is my World War II vlog. Got so many vlogs anymore. But anyway, that's what's going on. The smoke will come off the board in the next, or the end of this turn, basically. What's it called again, the final phase of the turn? Let me look real quick here. There it is, the administrative phase, which is right here. That's where you remove smoke or flip them, so on and so forth. So yeah. So that's what's going on, folks. That's the progress of the battle. I won't make this too long since it's really just an update to the battle and what's going on and my thoughts so far. Rules-wise, there's been maybe one or two questionable things. It takes getting used to. Like, for instance, stone walls, and this applies to hedges as well. They're considered blocking terrain, unless the target is in the same hex. It's not a blocking terrain. You can shoot at this guy, this German, even though he's behind this wall. But one thing that wasn't clear, but I'm sure I have this right, is that the modifier, when this German unit is shot at, he gets to roll his d6 and add the terrain modifier of the hex that he's in. And right now he's in light woods. Okay, so that's like a +1. So he rolled d6 +1. Now, how does the wall figure in? Now, I'm assuming that wall, which is also a +1, adds to that. So he would actually roll a d6 +2. That's what makes sense. I don't think the rules actually state that, but you can look at the chart, and it tells you that there's a +1 terrain modifier. But the rules tell you that, you count what's in your hex. It doesn't mention hex sides or lines of fire that pass through a hex side that doesn't block. In this case, it doesn't block to the target because the target is in the same hex as the wall. So just a little head scratching with that, but common sense prevails. Maybe I missed it or something. Maybe I didn't. I don't know, but it seems like that should be a little bit more clear. And the only place I find any reference to it is just the charts, terrain modifier charts, that mention this wall has a +1 terrain modifier when the unit's shot at. So, okay. I guess I figured that out. And, same would apply to hedges as well. And that's about it. I don't think I had any other head-scratching moments. Just a minor little thing. And again, I might have actually missed the rule or the mention of the walls, how they work. But all in all, it's written pretty good. The rules are easy to follow, and I'm getting along. I basically, I think I gave the rules one read-through, sat down, played a little skirmish. I think I read about half of the rules, actually, and started reading the additional rules as I needed them. And then I set up an actual scenario, read some of the rules I knew I was going to need, before the start of this game, like the stuff on heroes and how they're generated, smoke, off-table artillery coming in. I did read those before I played, skimmed them at least, and then I'd read them when I thought they would be useful. And so it's so far so good. No problems with the rules. One thing I didn't do yet is bring in the sniper. Russians do get a sniper. He has to be placed adjacent to a Russian unit in terrain with a positive modifier for a target, like this building here, and he don't move. So yeah, he's going to remain there and do some deadly shooting. Yeah, so I have to bring him in. I'll think of bringing him in this next turn and see how the rules for that work out. And we'll see if the Russians can overwhelm the Germans with the last 3 turns of the battle. What do you think, folks? Think the Germans will hold out? MG42 on tripod sitting right here. Another one down here. See what happens. See if these Russians want to chance and hit the flanks and get around to this building that way, as opposed to just rushing across the street through smoke or whatever. We got Lieutenant Petrov up here, a 716 commander. He's got 2 guard squads with him, one of which has a Molotov cocktail, which will be useful as a range of 1 hex. Can also be used in close assaults, not just throwing it. So, yeah, that's the situation so far. No major casualties, and everything at the moment has been rallied. There's no shaken units, so it's kind of a reprieve, a calm, if you will, before the storm. The fires have died down. The Russians are readying themselves for the big push. And, yeah, I'll make one more vlog update after this, I think, regarding this game and show you the results and my final thoughts on the scenario. Again, so far, so good. So, folks, that's about it. I'll see you in the next vlog update. You guys take care. Hang in there. It's only going to get better. You know it. Take care, folks.